Kim Walker-Smith never thought she would be a recording artist. But after a YouTube video of her singing went viral, her life completely changed. Today, that video has propelled Jesus Culture, a youth band that originated from Bethel, California, into the limelight. Kim Walker-Smith now leads worship on stages around the world. And in her book, Brave Surrender, she shares how God rewrote the story of her painful past into a story of hope and redemption. I remember the first time I heard you singing, it was on the YouTube video, the How He Loves.
Yeah.
And, I'm crying. Even as I'm reading the book, I'm crying. I'm like, can you just stop making me cry? But really, I think the reason is because you're so vulnerable, it gives others permission to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And really just open ourselves to God and really what He's really doing. So how did you learn to be vulnerable?
I start off in the book sharing a story, the story about how He loves.
Yeah.
And this is probably a really perfect example of me learning how to be vulnerable. When we released How He Loves on the We Cry Out album, we were recording, and it's all live, so we're just trying to capture the moment, capture what's happening as we're leading worship at our conference. And when we get through the worship set and I get into that song, all of a sudden, the presence of God in the room was it was tangible, and it felt like there was just this kind of invitation to everyone to come into something with God, to experience something with Him, to experience His love. And in the moment, I'm feeling almost like a panic, like I don't want anyone to miss this. This is a powerful moment we're in, and I don't want anyone to miss out on what's happening. So I start trying to communicate what's happening in kind of like a don't miss this kind of moment. But I'm stumbling over my words. I feel like I sound completely ridiculous. And when it's all over, I realize, and we were recording that. And so I go to Banning, who's our pastor of our church and director of Jesus Culture, and I was saying, listen, you got to edit that out. Don't put that on the recording. And he was like, that was the best part. And I was like, what? I was like, that was so embarrassing, humiliating. I sounded ridiculous. And he didn't agree. And I begged him forever, and I lost. He put it on the recording. And then, it's also a video, the DVD. And then it gets put up on YouTube. And
that was the very thing that God used to really touch so many people's lives.
So that he took this really vulnerable moment that's kind of embarrassing to me, but he used it to bring glory to Him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what started everything with Jesus Culture.
Yeah. That's just such a beautiful thing. And I also want to talk about vulnerability in the sense of your lowest point in high school when you just didn't want to be here anymore and you actually attempted suicide. So what happened, and how did God bring you out of that?
Yeah. So at the time, my mom was married to my third stepdad, and he was this really incredible guy who was a solid Christian, who loved us, provided for us. He just really changed our lives completely. But I just could not accept all of that. I felt that I couldn't trust him. I thought he's just going to be like the other men who hurt me. But also I felt somehow stuck back in the past behind me, this wounded, hurting, angry child. And it just kept building and growing, especially the anger and the rage that I felt inside towards everybody, myself, God. And my senior year of high school, I just could not cope with that anymore. And the voice in my head, the voice of the enemy was just, end your life, just get this over with and just end it. And so I did. My family wasn't home. I was home by myself. And I just went to the medicine cabinet and just took everything I could find and swallowed it down. And I blacked out. And when I woke up, at first I was like, I'm awake. And then I'm looking around, and I hadn't been sick. I didn't have a headache. I didn't have a stomach ache. I wasn't groggy. I mean, it was as if it hadn't even happened. And I was kind of stunned. And then I suddenly had this thought in my head, God, you must actually be real. And I think that you love me. You do really love me. And in that moment, I just started crying, and I surrendered my life to Jesus. And I said, I will follow you and I will never look back, but you have got to set me free. I need to get free from all of this bondage I feel. And it didn't happen in a moment, but that was the start of a long journey for me of getting set free and walking that out with him. That was the starting point.
And there might be someone watching who's where you were and doesn't feel seen, doesn't feel loved, and doesn't want to be here. And so I want to go to page 83 of your book, those two questions that you asked that came to your mind. How much do you love me? And what were you thinking when you created me? And someone's watching this thinking, God, do you love me? And what were you thinking when you created me? And what would you tell them?
Those two questions, if you believe that you're a mistake, or if you believe that your life has no value, well, to go to the creator of the universe and say, what were you thinking when you made me? And how much do you love me? You're not expecting very great answers in that because of the things that you believe about yourself. But the answers he gave was nothing but love and the joy in me, his daughter. And it was a powerful, life-changing moment for me. And I would encourage someone, if they are in that place where they don't feel their life has worth or value, or they don't feel seen or heard or loved or whatever it is, to ask those questions. Maybe they have their own questions, but those questions are a really powerful and great place to start. And it's very simple. It's just that childlike faith of you just go to Jesus and you ask him those questions. How much do you love me? And what were you thinking when you created me? And the first question, how much do you love me? He answered that right away. But the answer to the second question actually came later. And I think, God's timing is perfect, and he may answer those questions right in the moment, or it may be over a span of time. It could be in a dream. It could be an encounter in worship. It could come through the words and encouragement of a friend. But whatever it is, that's a really great place to start, just to ask God those simple questions and let his love drive out everything else that's not him, all the negative voices, all the negative thoughts. Let his voice be louder than all of that.